before we wrap it up, we're talking about Al Nassr and playing in the Gulf region. We've had our first World Cup in the Gulf. Your thoughts on Qatar and what they've done with the World Cup. So have you enjoyed from just a watcher's perspective?
The group stage was very exciting. And from what we've heard about fan testimonies, they've actually quite enjoyed the World Cup. You know, I remember there was the uproar about the no beer at the stadium. Interesting enough, you talk to fans after, they're like, oh, actually, in the end, it turned out okay. Like, you know, it was fine. You've heard good report. I saw one tweet from a mom who said that this is one of the first sporting experience she's been to. She's not been catcalled. So it seems like there's some things that have been done right in Qatar. So I guess from that perspective, you can give them credit. Obviously, there are issues about the workers who died and that kind of stuff. It will never leave because, you know, safe working conditions are important. It's unfortunate. I guess we've gotten here now. We are past that point. Let's enjoy the tournament, but we should still at least speak about it so that the next people who are hosting the World Cup don't do certain things to the people who are working on the tournament. I think some of these things need to be spoken about, but you don't have to do it. We have to be consistent about it everywhere. We can't start the moment someone else hosts the World Cup.
I don't even think it's just so that the next people hosting won't do it. I feel like everywhere in the world has peculiar problems that are not good. If you are going to speak out at it, then let's just do it.
That's what I mean. That it shouldn't be when it's someone we don't like are hosting. Because are we going to start talking about the social problems in Mexico, the United States, Canada ahead of the World Cup, or is it going to be silent? Are we going to be talking about only the good things? Because the fact that a Gulf nation is hosting the World Cup for the first time is a big deal. And it's the World Cup, so the World Cup should go everywhere. So eventually, we should be going to Australia.
Yeah.
Eventually, we should be going back to the Southeast Asian area. Eventually, we should be coming back to Africa. If we've had Southern Africa, there's still North Africa, there's still West Africa, there's still East Africa. So the World Cup should be moving around. I think that's a very important part of the fact that it's called the World Cup. So it's great that it's come to the Gulf for the first time. Maybe Qatar didn't handle some certain things they lead up well. That's fine. We should talk about it. But I think we should also be looking at the positives. And part of the problem is that there's all these issues about sports washing and stuff. And it's very complicated because right now, the majority of money in football is from sports washing. We can't hide from this fact. So we should be just as, thorough when we're talking about. So the moral standard we're applying to Qatar, it should be applied to PSG, it should be applied to Newcastle, Manchester City. We should be applying it everywhere. And that's the point. It's the lack of consistency which has made Qatar kind of be able to escape from their problems by saying you are hypocrites. Because saying you are hypocrites is not a response to criticism. It's a deflection. But if you make it easy for the people you are criticizing to say that, it means that you yourself, you've not done your due diligence as a person. Because this is even the Bible. Remove the plank from your eye before the speck of dust in someone else's eye. This is something that we all...
Who's quoting the Bible?
I actually like the Bible. Great book. Wonderful book. But that's the point. You just can't be a hypocrite. So Qatar have gotten away with this because for me, the criticism is valid. Don't get me wrong. But
where it's coming
from, and the fact that it's so easy for them to say you are a hypocrite, and people are able to jump, hey, these people are hypocrites, is also a problem. So I think that's the main problem. You have to have a clean slate before you do your own thing. So that's where we are right now. But I think criticism is good, but I think introspection is just as good. So we need a bit of both.
Daniel, your thoughts? Qatar's hosting of the World Cup, all these related matters.
I think from the footballing point of view, if you talk to those, even from the broadcasting point of view, it's been brilliant. We've seen how well they have done. The facilities top class. For those of our colleagues who went there, when you speak to fans who are still there, the experience has been brilliant. Some have seen a couple of people call it the best week of their life. This experience, and that is what some of these things are for, the exposure. And you can tell they've really done well. And they had planned to host a very worthwhile competition, and they've done that. Luckily for them also, the football on the pitch has also been brilliant. The players have turned up. They've got performances from players that they had dreamed that will finally come and play in front of them. Messi has given them moments to shout about. Neymar, Lewandowski has scored his first World Cup goal in Qatar. So all these things are things that have contributed to making the World Cup as big and as brilliant as we've witnessed so far. And we can just hope that from a footballing point of view, this thing continues. If you look at the storylines in South Africa, the reason why people can't forget is because of how interesting the storylines were. The fact that we had an African team go all the way. There was that Suarez incident. You look at the eventual champion Spain, how they started the competition, how they were able to turn things around, and as they were. The stories have been nice over the years, and we've seen some brilliant World Cups like that. So for the fact that we've reached the round 16 stage, today's the last day of the round 16, and we've seen some excellent goals, we've seen some brilliant performances from top teams. Footballing-wise, in terms of everything, the organization, it's been brilliant.
And I just want to add to that on the footballing side. We thought that mid-season it will affect the players and that kind of stuff. We've not seen that. The level has been very good, in my opinion. And I said it earlier on the show, I think on the first episode, I don't mind the calendar change. I mean, we should be playing, if we are going to be dedicated to a World Cup, as in a World Cup that goes around place and everywhere gets a chance, we should also be dedicated to being okay to have some disruptions in your calendar every 4 years. We won't die if we don't play football in November and December for 1 year out of 4. We won't die if the World Cup is in February and March in another year. We'll live. So I think we should be open to moving the World Cup to different times, to have a different experience and get the best out of different hosts.
Great stuff there. Let me go through a couple of messages before we wrap it up. Papa Kwame from Obuasi is saying, what kind of penalties did the Japanese players take? Said if like them be Ghanaians, like they die for here. All right. Someone who's in Kofredia says, this Korean team wasn't the best to give the Brazilians a tough time. Ghana won convincingly against them in the first half. I think Brazil will be a worry, or Brazil will have worries against teams that don't want to play with the ball. Okay, I'm struggling to get the import of this.
Means, teams that sit back.
Yes, teams that sit back. Okay, well, I think he's saying that teams that would want more of the ball from Brazil. He's mentioning Spain. I think Brazil would rather love that, right? If you have the ball and you attack, then they play on the break and they go and score.
Vinicius.
Vinicius and Numo Aspilicueta.
It will be brilliant.
It will be brilliant. All right, guys, predictions. We've got just a few seconds left. Who's winning today's games?
This is a tough one. The Morocco-Spain game.
I'll go for Morocco.
Okay.
That's a
I'll
tough
go for
one.
a 1-0 Morocco.
1-0 Morocco.
I think it will be a very close game. I don't see more than one goal in it, but I don't know who scored the goal. But
okay.
I hope it's Morocco. Let me say I hope it's Morocco.
Okay. And the other game, Portugal, Switzerland.
Easy for Portugal for me.
Easy for Portugal.
I don't expect much from the Swiss.
Soon. Getting the win today.
We'll see Ronaldo getting a goal, a proper goal.
What's a proper goal?
I mean, a goal that he scores, not the one somebody scores and he says it's mine.
But that wasn't given to him. So how is it his goal?
And all I have to say is Estada Volantes para casa.
Está levantado.
Para casa.
Está levantado.
It's coming home.
It's coming.
Para casa.
Yeah, para casa.
Okay. Maybe home is Portugal. You never know.
Hi.
I did Portuguese Brazilian, no Portuguese.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
because if that
Portuguese.
ends up, I think if the World Cup ends up in Portugal, I think that closes everything. It ends everything.
Like the Monday, I will come and sleep here.
All right.
I might actually cry.
Okay, we'll see how it goes, guys.